I'm 456 feet up on the very top of Queen Anne Hill, where 75 years ago, the first television broadcast of the Pacific Northwest came out of this building back here using an old World War II radio broadcast tower. Welcome to Queen Anne, the neighborhood 456 feet above Puget Sound. It was formed by the Vashon Glacier 14,000 years ago. The Shilshole, Suquamish, and Duwamish tribes used this area as a seasonal campground where they would hunt, fish, shellfish, and catch ducks in nets. On the south side of the hill was a beautiful meadow where the Duwamish held massive festivals, earning it the name Potlatch Meadows by Arthur Denny and his younger brother David. David T. Denny preferred the meadow to the dense forest of the Seattle area, so he staked his claim and spent his honeymoon in the meadow with his wife Louisa in 1853. At this time, Queen Anne was known as Eden Hill, and the next prominent settler, Thomas Mercer, staked his claim just north of the Denny claim. The area struggled to grow due to the steep grade of the hill, making it not an optimal area for the forestry industry or the farming industry. In 1860, the first road was cut through the forest following a Salish trail, and that road is now Dexter Avenue. This began Eden Hill's evolution into one of Seattle's most revered residential neighborhoods. 20 years after the Denny party's arrival in Seattle, David Denny subdivided his 500-acre claim and sold them to homebuyers just like you for a 2-for-1 special if the buyer promised to build a home on it immediately. A real estate developer named George Kinnear moved to the area, started building houses, but then a violent hurricane ripped down thousands of trees in 1875, as well as some houses and farms. But in the end, this cleared the forest for the development of the land to really boom after that. One of my favorite topics in this series is the evolution of Seattle's connection to the railroad, connecting it to the rest of the United States. So in 1883, when Seattle got connected to the railroad, the area's development flourished. Also in 1880, Eden Hill took on a new name, Gaylor Hill, or North Seattle. But that wouldn't last long when Reverend Daniel Begley cracked a joke about the area, asking people in jest if they were going to Queen Anne Town due to the fact that many of the homes being built in this area imported an architectural style from England, and the name stuck. In 1885, a wagon road was built between Temperance Avenue and Farm Street, which is now Aurora, and that wagon road would later be named Mercer Street. In 1887, the Lakeshore and Eastern Railroad arrived in Seattle, and it just reached the west and north side of the hill. This created the community of Ross and granted access to another growing community, Fremont. In 1890, Seattle's population grew 12 times in 10 years, and after the Seattle fire and the rebuilding of downtown Seattle, Queen Anne grew significantly, but its steep topography hindered its progress once again. The electric streetcars that were responsible for the growth of many Seattle neighborhoods had a tough time getting up the steep grade of the hills here on Queen Anne, so they built counterweights and installed them underneath the roads to pull the cars up. This earned Queen Anne the nickname the counterbalance in 1902. This led to the construction of many fine homes on the south side of the hill, which boasted views of Mount Rainier, Elliott Bay, and the growing city skyline. David Denny was, like other Seattle legends, a proponent of prohibition, hence the name Temperance Avenue. But he was also a supporter of women's right to vote and was against the oppression of the Chinese. When he employed the use of Chinese laborers to dig the Ship Canal in 1917, Salmon Bay turned into a freshwater basin. It was one of the many environmental impacts the digging of the canal had on the area. This caused Queen Anne to finally find a suitable industry, and the maritime industry flourished. So despite the hill's reputation for luxury homes, many of the residents at the time were wage earners that lived in modest abodes. The Great Depression hit Seattle, and Queen Anne benefited from the many work programs that came along with it. The Aurora Bridge was built as a result of the Great Depression, as well as the Queen Anne Boulevard Bridge, and many of Queen Anne's parks. During World War II, Queen Anne was home to an anti-aircraft gun at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery, and it was also home to Medal of Honor recipient fighter pilot Robert E. Gaylor. In 1948, KRSC broadcast TV from the PNW, and the broadcast showed a football game between West Seattle High and Wenatchee down at Memorial Stadium, and more people saw the game in person than they did on TV. King Broadcasting bought the television operation, resulting in the first sale of a TV station in United States history. Como TV and Cairo 7 sought broadcasting towers as well and built 600-foot tall towers on top of the hill. When they tried to upgrade to 1,000-foot tall towers, residents of Queen Anne got City Hall to put a restriction on tower height. In 1962, the famous World's Fair that brought the Seattle Space Needle as well as the Seattle Center was followed by Queen Anne getting their own basketball team, the Seattle Supersonics, named after a Boeing airliner that was never actually built. Seattle would sell the Sonics in 2006, leaving the city without a basketball team ever since. Thanks again for watching one of my videos. I love making these things. This one was a little tough because of all the broadcasting towers up on top of Queen Anne Hill. It made my drone lose connection when it got too high in the air. But if you want to help me out, please like this video, share it if you can. The more exposure that I get, the more hype I am to make these videos, the better I'm gonna make them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Jesus Louises. You know me? Yeah. Oh, what's up, dude?